Good evening, everyone. Thank you so very much for taking the time out to come to our CESAX 101. My name is Olivia McIntosh. I use she, her pronouns. I am the VP of Events and Outreach. And I'll hand it over to Steph.
Hi, my name is Steph Rishlow. My pronouns are they and them, and I'm the Vice President of Equity and Campaigns.
All right, thank you. So to get started, I'll start us off with our land acknowledgement and equity statement. We can never work to end systematic and institutional violence if we do not center the narratives of Indigenous people in our collective decision-making for social justice and equity. As settlers in Turtle Island, we directly benefit from the colonization and genocide of the Indigenous people of this land. In order to engage in resistance and solidarity against the injustices inflicted on the Indigenous people, it is imperative we constantly engage in acts of decolonization. X University is in the Dish with One Spoon territory. The Dish with One Spoon is a treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and protect the land. Subsequent Indigenous nations and peoples, settlers, and all newcomers have been invited into this treaty created in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. Or equity statement. Student union solidarity is based on the principle that all members are equal and deserve mutual respect and understanding. As members of the student union, mutual respect, cooperation, and understanding are our goals. We should never condone nor tolerate behavior that undermines the dignity or self-esteem of any individual or creates an intimidating, hostile, or offensive environment. It is our collective responsibility to create an inclusive space for discussion and dialogue. All forms of discrimination and harassment will not be tolerated, nor will hate speech rooted in, but not limited to, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, sexism, racism, classism, ableism, homophobia, or transphobia. We all have an obligation to ensure that an open and inclusive space free of hate is established. If you are not here in an understanding of good faith, or you have violated this understanding, you will be asked to leave. You can also, throughout this presentation, you can feel free to drop your questions in the chat, or you can wait until the presentation is over and save your questions for the end. Over to you now, Steph.
I was muted. I think that pretty much covers it. So without further ado, we're just going to pull up a presentation on CESAX 101. And then we can get started with going through what we do as a student union, what our purpose is, what benefits everyone has as members, and we'll get into it. Amazing. So that's us. We are the Continuing Education Students Association of X University, or CESAX. And this is a little overview about what we do. So on our next slide, you'll see our very important question, which is, what is a students' union? What is the purpose? Notice the spelling of students' union. We have an S apostrophe, meaning it's possessive, but of all students. So all students, this is a union that all of us have collectively together. But what's the purpose of it? We have a little diagram and it will show you. So we have three main pillars as an organization. So the first being campaigns and advocacy, which is mainly my role. I am Vice President Equity and Campaigns, but there's some other things too. There's services that we offer to students that just basically meet the needs of students, especially the immediate needs of students as far as financial support or other supports that students may need. And then we also, this is more Olivia's ground, we do a lot of events and programming that bring us together as a community. We operate as a continuing education and part-time degree union. And our mandate and goals are very much the same as other campuses, but also particularly for part-time mature students, student parents, or folks who are low income. We have a little bit more of a breakdown on our next slide. So I think when a lot of people think of a student union or any organization on campus, immediately in their head, they think of a triangle and they think of some sort of a hierarchy where these people who are working as executives, they may be the ones who have all the collective decision-making power, when in reality, it's a little bit more flipped. So the biggest decision-making body of our union is actually members. And I will get into who constitutes as a member of CESAX in a moment, but anyone who's a member can participate and have a lot of decision-making power by attending our committees. We have 3 open committees that we're going to get into today that people are welcome to come to and are welcome to organize with. We have general meetings, usually semi-annual and annual general meetings. And then every year we also hold elections. So people get their say into who the incoming executives are. Then right underneath the members, we also have a board of directors as well. These are people that sit on our board and have voting power when it comes to the collective decision making. That means that they can also attend various committees. We have different board members that are on our various committees. Then down low, we have the executive committee. So that's myself, that's Olivia, that's our other president and vice presidents that are on the union. There are 5 of us, but really the board of directors has more decision-making power over our organizational structure than we do. We sit on the board of directors, but the board of directors is constituted of more people than just us. And then below that, finally, we have staff. So we do have full-time and part-time staff that work as part of the union. They do help us with organizing different events and organizing different campaigns and all the really lovely services that we are able to provide. But those aren't the people who are making the decisions on what is going on with our university, what our bylaws are, what our policies are. That's actually the members who have the collective decision-making power over that. And then I'm also going to do a quick breakdown on our next slide of our membership. So there are 6 different ways that you could be I guess either a membership under our membership or under other memberships that are provided by other student unions on the university campus. So the first being certificate programs. So if you are taking your studies either as a certificate, a part-time degree, or distance education, or you're just taking a Chang School credit course, you fall under our membership. So for people that are specifically certificate and part-time degree students, they get access to a bunch of the different services that we're about to go over, including our specific continuing education health and dental plan, but some other things as well. If folks are maybe undergraduate full-time degree students, but they are taking Chang School courses. So if you ever take a course at nighttime or on the weekends or in the spring and summer, and you'll usually notice that the course code has a C in front of it. Like if you usually take sociology classes and they would start with SOC, a Chang School course would start with CSOC. And if you're taking one of those courses, it means that you fall under our membership for that semester. So you might be eligible for some of our programs, like our spring and summer bursary, for example. There is also an undergraduate student union on campus called the RSU. And then there is also a graduate student union called the XGSU. So those folks represent full-time undergraduate students and graduate students, and they have some separate services We sometimes work collectively on things together, but if you are specifically a full-time undergraduate student or a graduate student, you're going to fall under different health and dental plans, but that still means that you can check out some of our different events and campaigns and participate that way as well. I'm going to hand it over to Olivia to talk a little bit about the services that we offer.
Thank you. So what are the services that CESAX offer? We have, next slide, please. We have our health and dental plan that is only available to part-time degree students. Full-time degree students have their services through the RSU. Certificate and chunk school students do not have coverage. And to learn more about the health and dental plan, you can visit mycesax.ca/health. Next slide, please. And our amazing health and dental plan administrator at CESAX is Amanda Lynn. You can reach her at healthplan@mycesax.ca. Or if you are calling type of person, you can call 416-979-5000 and the extension is 552-3666. Next slide, please. So we also have our legal aid clinic, and it is free legal services to all our members through our amazing in-house lawyer, Bill Reed. He offers a wide variety of knowledge through the legal system. So you can go to mycesax.ca/legal, and you can, if you have any questions about immigration, tax, tenant services, house, whatever you name it, Bill Reed is your guy. Next slide, please. And we definitely have our bursaries. So our fall 2021 bursary deadline is Friday, October 8th, 2021 at 5 p.m. And our winter bursary is not open as yet. It will be online Friday, January 14, 2022 at 12 p.m. To learn about how to qualify and how to sign up for bursaries, you can visit www.mycesax.ca/bursary. And we also offer financial aid. The bursaries are every semester. We have emergency grants that are for emergency only. So to read more or to learn more about the emergency grant, you can visit mycesax.ca/services/CESAX emergency/grant. We also have our financial aid workshops, and as I mentioned, tax clinic, and our tax clinic are run by volunteers who are willing and dedicated to do all of your tax information for free. Next slide. And we have our student advocate workshops are every semester, so you get to learn more about the important dates. We have the academic standing appeals webinar. We have academic integrity, fee appeals, non-academic issues, and all of this information can be found on mycesax.ca/student rights. And our personal student right person is Linda Musselman. She is amazing. She's dedicated to getting your issues resolved. So just go to mycesax.ca/students right. Read more if you have any issues that need to be advocated for. We're here to help. Next slide. And campaigns and programming is over to you, Steph.
This is what I do. This is my favorite stuff. Let's get started. So the first thing that I want to talk about is, you may have heard that the university has announced a potential, an approved name change. What the name is going to be changed to, we're still not sure. It is in the process of decision making, and we're probably going to hear in the new year. But why is this happening? Why are we changing the name of the university? So who even was Egerton Ryerson? So Egerton Ryerson submitted the plan that became the framework for the residential schools. And right now is a time in the world where we're discovering a lot of unmarked graves, and there's many that have not been discovered yet, have not been uncovered. And this is a very hard time for a lot of folks, but the push to change the name of the university is not new. There have been many Indigenous organizers on our campus that have been pushing for a name change for years, and the university has ignored those demands for a name change. So in the May of this year, a group of Indigenous students, staff, and faculty from the Yellowhead Institute released an open letter asking folks to start the name change process on our own. Let's stop calling it Ryerson University if they're refusing to change the name. Let's call it X University instead. And then when no one's using it anymore, I guess it's time for a change. So this was a success, this campaign, because now the university is moving forward with no longer going by Ryerson University, and is implementing a lot of the suggestions that were on the Standing Strong Task Force. So basically by January of 2022, we should have an operating plan for plans going forward for the name change. Next slide, please. So what can people do until we have a new name for the university? Students may ask, what do we do? I would say let's continue to support Indigenous students and staff and faculty who have been calling for this name change. We're going to continue to call ourselves CESAX until there is a new name, and we ask students to do the same. I know in my LinkedIn, whatever, I don't have Ryerson University, I have X University. So update your email signature and your social media, participate in the culture shift through the language that we're using, listen to Indigenous students on our campus and advocate for the needs that they're expressing. Right now is a great week for learning because it is XU Powwow Week. So there are a bunch of events that are being offered to community throughout the week. And then I would also pitch that this Saturday the 25th, there is going to be a powwow vendor market as well. So if folks would like to go down and pick up some resources and check out what's going on, I would also encourage you to do that. Next slide, please. Another one of our campaigns that's really important is the push for free education. Education is a right, and we should have accessible education for everyone that doesn't have all these economic barriers to it. We should have public funding for this education that's supposed to be a public education, and we should have sustainable planning and development. How do we advocate for these things? Well, we have to participate sometimes democratically, like through provincial and federal elections. I don't know who else is thinking about elections right now, because I feel like we had one really recently. I can't remember. Yeah, it was yesterday. But remember that things like funding for schools that are post-secondary education, that falls under provincial jurisdiction. So we do have a provincial election coming up in the spring. Pay attention to who's running and who is advocating for, budget allocations into the funding post-secondary education, who's looking to provide more cuts. So pay attention and participate and make sure that your voice is heard, because we want to make sure that education is a right and it is accessible for everyone. I do have a quote on the next slide, and I will read that for you now. To achieve our ultimate goal, a system of post-secondary education that is accessible to all, which is high quality, which is nationally planned, which recognizes the legitimacy of student representation and the validity of student rights, and whose role in society is clearly recognized and appreciated. And that quote comes from the Canadian Federation of Students, their declaration of their goal in organizing. And we are a member of that larger federal student movement. And you are all represented through the Canadian Federation of Students by being CESAX members as well. I will move on to our next campaign slide. So harm reduction. This is a pressing conversation on our campus and in the community because one, this is a widespread issue, but also our university is in a very unique location where we are in right the downtown core of downtown Toronto, and that's where we have a concentration of harm reduction services. So these are services that are provided to help lessen the risks that are associated with substance use. However, because there are prohibitive substance laws, a lot of our ways of consuming substances for people who do that in our community are very unsafe, and there is a lot of harm that's associated with them. So we are right downtown on our university campus. There is a supervised consumption site that is right next door, and these are really important healthcare facilities. But they are also limited in their funding, and they're limited in their support from politicians and our university administration. And because of it, sometimes they don't have enough funds to do all the projects and all the supports that they want. Prior to the pandemic, we were having about an overdose on campus every 5 days. Thankfully, because of student organizing, all of resident staff and security are now equipped with the opioid antagonist naloxone, which is used to help reverse overdoses. But it's important that we share information with our community that we also hear that it's called the opioid crisis, the overdose crisis, but the drugs are not the issue here. The issue is the substance policy that criminalizes these substances and makes them dangerous for use because they have an unregulated supply. So we often hear this voice of what we call NIMBYism, NIMBY standing for not in my backyard. People don't want to see these services, but without those services, there are a lot of people whose lives are at risk. And we want to prioritize safety, community safety, and the lives of our community members over these attitudes that are based on moral superiority and have a lack of evidence supporting why they don't want those services. So things that we've been doing on campus is naloxone trainings. Tomorrow we're doing an event called Understanding the Good Samaritan Drug Overdose Act, which I would encourage folks to attend, just so we can get some information on what's going on with the toxic drug supply crisis and how we as a community in the downtown core can help support our community members. And on to the next slide, I'll just do one quick, some other general campaigns. So we do a numerous amount of equity and social justice campaigns. So we do everything from environmental justice to, well, there's been a lot of things that have been happening in our global climate. We've had to have a lot of conversations surrounding anti-Black and anti-Asian racism. We've done a lot of movements that are in solidarity with Palestinians. We also do supports for student parents and many other anti-oppressive movements. A lot of the things that we run, some are campus specific and specific to our community, but many are global as well and span on a much larger scale than just what's happening in downtown Toronto or just what's happening on X university campus. So that's a general overview of some of our campaigns, but I'll pass it back to Olivia and she can tell you a little bit more about how you can actually get involved with us.
Yes. So next slide. These are the various ways that you can get involved with CESAX. We have 3 major community committees that you can get involved with. The first one is bylaws and policy. Second is equity and campaigns. And third and last is my specialty, the events committee. You can check out these listers on www.mycesax.ca/committees. You can read about us, learn more, and whichever one you're comfortable, or if you're comfortable with all, you can also volunteer. Next slide, please. So we have a class representative program. This is where you get to be involved, where you give feedback to CESAX, provide updates to class members on like the various events that we're having. So you come to the meetings, you let us know the issues that are happening in your class and whatever updates we have, and ways in moving forward, you bring that back to your class members. It also helps you to build skills in public speaking, advocacy, and networking. Also, it gives you a chance to build on your amazing leadership skills. And forms are available at mycesax.ca/classrep. So we are open to all volunteers, and you can volunteer through the class representative program, or you can, once you go on our website at mycesax.ca/volunteer, you can see how you can get involved, and you can go through Track It For, or you could just show up like now and reach out to us. Everyone is welcome. Next slide, please. And we have some amazing events, and our events are planned by the events committee. You can find the events calendar at www.mycesax.ca/events. Events are also posted on the D2L. We have a newsletter, and if you follow our social media platforms, you can also get updates on our events. Next slide, please. So on our social media platform, we issue an e-letter monthly. Our social media is at XU-CESAX, and that's everything for the Twitter, the Facebook, and the Instagram. Or D2L core shell, you can visit our core shell, or you can add the phone app. So how to join on board. So currently there are vacancies for part-time degrees representative. This is a 5-hour-a-week commitment. You will be participating in the monthly board meetings, the committee participation, governance and strategy experience, build social and public speaking skills. And if you are interested, you can go to mycesax.ca/jobs, read up, and whatever you're interested in, you can apply. Again, thank you so very much for taking the time out to come and listen and learn more about CESAX 101. You can reach us at VP Equity SF, that is vp.equity@mycesax.ca, and me, of course, at vp.events@mycesax.ca, or you can visit our website at mycesax.ca.